So now it's time to put in some filament and start trying to print. Um, so I did notice that I forgot to put on our spool holder. We might have to give that a shot here. Make sure I'm moving the right camera. No, I just moved the wrong camera. I'll come up just a little bit higher here so you can see what I'm doing. And I have the spool facing back out that way. I'll grab my appropriate wrench. That is not the appropriate wrench. Loosen them up just a smidge. And put them. Looks like when you put these in there, they're just going to kind of twist themselves and lock in place, which is handy. Nice. Looks like they could be tightened down a little bit further. Once again, this isn't a structural component either, so I'm not super worried about it. There we go. That's where I need it. So now I'm going to get my filament out of the box here. I'm going to start with some white PLA. I use Hatchbox. I'll go back to my razor blade here. Oh, actually, it looks like there's a spot that I can rip it like that. I like to keep my bags as intact as possible because if possible, I'll put it back in there. And so same thing with the silica salt, is I like to keep that silica salt in the bag, right? This salt that just fell out. I like to put this in the bag and just throw this whole thing back in the box and store it in there because all it's going to do is help keep your filament dry, which is something that's pretty important. So I'm going to take my spool here, and there we go. Now, I believe if we head over to our little screen here, there's a little mode to walk us through preparing for PLA. So I'm going to click prepare, and I'm going to, oh no, all I've really got is preheat PLA. So I want to do that. I want to preheat PLA because I don't think there's a mode specifically. Nope, we don't want to get any of that. So let's just click preheat PLA. So what that's going to do is it's going to set the extruder to 200 and it's setting the bed up to 60. I'm also going to move up on my, oops. It's going to home itself first, it looks like. Homing itself before it moves. There we go, now it's happy. Leveling with the Z. Very cool. So I want to move up in the Z axis here. So I'm gonna bring that up. So I see my Z axis moving up a little bit, and I'll stop right there. So I'm gonna actually stay in this mode because I'm gonna need to feed my extruder too. So now let's get our filament here. There's that little kink in there. I'm actually just gonna use these diagonal cutters, and I'm just gonna cut it out because that kink might make things a little bit harder for us to deal with. Take that out. And I'm feeding this down, and where we added in this blue knob, you should see right by the lead screw there's a little hole, and then there's a lever back here. I'm gonna push this lever, right? So it's this little black lever device, and I'm gonna push that aside so I can feed in my material. So this lever is what tensions or holds the material in place. Actually, so we can control the extruder automatically. Remember, we don't want to twist this by hand because it's just not good to move powered on motors by hand. I'm actually just going to hold this lever open so it's not really pushing on the filament. And then I'm just going to start pushing the filament through by hand. It looks like I'm to a point where I can't push it any further, which is fine. Now I'm going to let the extruder do its job. So I'm going to head back over. I'm going to click this guy, and I'm going to have it start extruding. Yeah, so I'm going to have to zoom quite a bit, and there might be a better mode. I might have to look into it. But really, I just need to keep doing this until it starts to extrude out the end. So I'm kind of watching the nozzle, seeing anything's coming out. Making sure that I am indeed pulling in filament. I'm actually gonna, because I'm an impatient person, I often like to try and do this by hand, so I'm gonna see if I'm any closer, yeah. So I'm gonna loosen up the lever, and I'm just gonna keep on feeding this in by hand manually. I had a little bit of resistance, which might have been that little kink in the sheath there, and I'm getting a little bit more resistance by hand. So since I've got a little bit more resistance by hand, I'm going to go back to the manual mode. And for pushing more, got to be close to extruding. Alright. Oh, and there we go. I pushed it by hand, and now I can see out of my nozzle here a little white little bead. I'm gonna push it a little bit more. Yep, and there we go. There's I like to keep some tweezers handy just to grab these little goobers. And so I'm just gonna grab this guy. Oops, it's getting blown around. And so here we go. It's our first print. So now I think we're really ready to start printing things. Oftentimes, when you get a 3D printer, there'll be a test print that's sliced and ready for us to use. So here we see we got this little micro SD card, and it's in a little USB adapter. So I'm gonna take this guy out, and I'm just gonna grab the micro USB card right out of it, and I'm gonna put it. It goes in right here. Is where the real control board is. So I'm gonna feed it in. Oh, it looks like it might go in upside down. Yeah, it goes in upside down, so that means that the little copper parts here are facing upwards, which is unexpected, but it is what it is. All right, so now I'm gonna go over to my screen, and we can get out of this mode. So I'm gonna head, oops, there we go. I'm gonna head back and back again, and I'm gonna go into print mode. So now we see we've got two options here, rabbit and boat. I wonder if boat is kind of like a benchy. Maybe it is just benchy. Let's select it. It looks like it is benchy. So we can see a little preview here, which is nice. And I'm just gonna click confirm. So we can see now, it's well, it's not really saying what it's doing because it's already at temperature. It's at 200 degrees, and the bed is at 60 degrees. So we're just gonna wait for it to do its thing. It might just be, it hasn't changed the set point. I'm not really sure what it's doing. Oh, there it goes. So it's starting to move. So we're not really worried about the screen now. Oh, I did forget to kind of constrain these guys. That's okay. We'll be alright. Now it's probing its z-axis again. Got a little booger here that I'm going to just move out of the way. You can see right now what it's doing is it's actually feeding out some filament to sort of prime the system or to make sure that it's actually extruding where we want it to extrude. And I'm just going to pick that out of the way. And I can already tell that we've got some problems here. I can see that the filament is not really sticking. And so that means that this is not properly leveled. It's not quite where we need it to be. It needs to be lower, right? If it's not sticking, that means it's the bed is here and it's squirting out plastic and it's not hitting, right? Your first layer is absolutely essential. So I'm gonna head over to this guy and I'm just gonna click stop. I'm gonna confirm it. And there it goes. So I think when I was in the prepare mode, I did see that there's the ability to change our Z offset. And so I'm thinking that we want that to actually be a negative value. I'm just going to change that to maybe, I've got mine to negative 0.3. So I set that there. And I'm just going to try and reprint. Yeah. So you definitely want to watch your first layer. If we head back over, I can see here that we should really see a nice cohesive deposition, but this was like, I call it shredded wheat, right? It's just a bunch of extrusion that's not really sticking together and kind of floating around. So that just means that we're too high, right? The extruder was too high. So now we're waiting for it to heat back up. It does cool down when we click stop, and so that's what we're waiting for, is for it to heat back up. So I can see the temperature, right, is it's trying to get to 200. It's currently at 152. So we're just gonna wait for it to do its thing. It's gonna get to temperature and it's gonna rehome itself, which means find itself in the X, Y, and Z axes. So we'll just wait here. All right, 197 degrees, 198. As a reminder, most machines are in Celsius. This is 200 degrees Celsius. Look like we're at temperature, so we should see this guy starting any second now. So it's gonna level itself again. I'm gonna take this goober. You do want to be careful using your hands because you can burn yourself if you accidentally get nicked by the extruder. And it looks like it's still far too high. I can just see it as it's trying to extrude here. We'll see what happens, just in case I'm wrong. Yeah, it's still too high. I can go into this tune mode, which I might give a shot, and I can change my Z offset dynamically. Maybe do I want to go the other direction? Is it actually supposed to be positive? No, positive is definitely rising it, so we definitely want a negative. I'm gonna go. That looks better. Might go a whole millimeter actually. I'm assuming the units are here. Alright. That said, I'm going to once again stop, confirm, and I'm gonna reset. I'm gonna take all my deposition off. So I'm gonna peel all the plastic I've deposited off, and really quickly, because I don't want it to cool down again, I'm gonna print it again with my offset where it's at. I'm gonna make sure my offset's stuck. Yeah, my offset did stick. So now I gotta wait for this guy to heat back up. What a pain. It's heating up the bed first. There, the bed's at 60, and now it's gonna heat up the nozzle. So I'll just wait. And let's see what's gonna happen here. Almost at temp. Alright, we're at temperature, so now it's gonna do some homing, I think. Yep. And here now it's homing its Z-axis. Heading down. There we go. It's home its Z-axis. So right now I've got my Z offset at -1 millimeter. Now I'm gonna watch this guy as it deposits and see how well it sticks down. It looks like it's sticking down okay. Yeah. So this also kind of cleans off the nozzle. It helps get any stray plastic off. Okay, so that looks like that stuck down better. And now as it's printing, I can still see it's yeah, it's not quite where it needs to be. So I still need to change my offset. So let's change this quickly here. I'm gonna change it to 1.25. I'm gonna watch it as it's printing. See how it looks. See how well it's sticking down. It looks like it's sticking down okay. Alright, so if I watch it, I can see that it's not stretching around, right? It's where it wants to put the plastic, that's where the plastic's going. I might be able to increase this negatively. I'm going to go to negative 1.3. I don't want to make too big of changes now, because if I change too quickly, then the nozzle could crash right into the bed, and then I'm going to scratch up my bed. So, yeah, now it's just doing the infill. This guy's actually surprisingly quiet for how inexpensive it is. Very, very quiet. Yeah, so it's done with this first layer. The deposition looks decent. It looks decent right now. Let it keep doing its thing. Always, especially when you're first starting out with a new printer, always watch the first maybe 2-ish layers, 2 to 3, because really your first 2 to 3 layers are what makes or breaks a print. I mean, there are other issues, but really the first 2 to 3 layers are really critical, making sure that you have a nice solid foundation for the rest of your print, because if that's wobbling or if it's lower than you expected, everything else has to build on that, and that expectation is going to be off. So, I mean, it's pretty important. So it looks like I'm on my second layer here now. Sometimes it does help to get your phone out, get a flashlight, and kind of shine in there just to watch it and observe, see how your printer's doing. But you can notice I was changing these values as we were printing. It's just kind of an efficiency thing. You don't have to do it while it's printing. You could do some tests and then restart. But I'm trying to make a video, so I was trying to make it as quickly as I could. So almost done with our second layer. And now we're on to our third layer. And so this is starting to give me better glimpses of what it looks like as it's printing. And it looks okay. Let's go back to our screen and see what kind of information it's telling us. So we don't really care too much about this. Oops, leave that where it's at. So you can just see how much time has elapsed, and this is an estimated time, right? This isn't guaranteed to be the amount of time. I just saw it go up, right? It's still going up. So this is an estimated time, so I wouldn't ever put too much stock in it, but I can see at least my percentage done. The percentage done also is not necessarily the best indicator, because this is often calculated off of how many lines of G-code there are. And so if we've done 3 out of 100 G-code lines, but maybe those first 3 were really, really long ones, that would result in long movements, where some of the other lines might be really short ones. So this percentage also is not the best indicator, but that's just something for your information. So I think now I can stop recording, and we'll pick it back up after the print is done.